Hello. Welcome to the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show.
Welcome to a podcast show about stuff. It's the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show. Stephen Davis.
Hi, I'm Lady Dr. Deanna Ziegler, President and CEO of Z Creators and Professor Emerita at Florida A&M University School of Journalism and Graphic Communications. I am also the author of the award-winning book, Midnight Train from Georgia. Midnight Train from Georgia is the story of William Franklin Guest, a founding member of the iconic singing group Gladys Knight and the Pips. William tells a story of the evolution of the group from their childhood roots in the gospel church in Atlanta, Georgia, to becoming global superstars. He shares the journey that took them from Atlanta to New York City's famous Apollo Theater, Detroit's Motown Records, and Buddha Records, where they recorded hit after hit, winning American Music Awards, Grammy Awards, leading to their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. William is my brother-in-law, so I've lived this story since I was 11 years old, and it was quite a journey. Midnight Train from Georgia is a story about family, faith, love, the entertainment industry, and harmony, where harmony is more than just the blending of voices, it's the blending of spirit. Midnight Train from Georgia is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Order your copy today.
Welcome, my friends. It's time again. Time for the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show. My guests today are the prolific contemporary artist Gasby Brown and veteran actor Leon Pinkney. Gasby Brown has lived a fulfilling life in so many disciplines. She was a financial correspondent on television in New York, a professor, a nonprofit organization executive, and a PR company leader. She has created over 600 paintings being self-taught. Leon is a writer, an actor, a speaker, and an energy healing practitioner whose works are of arts, consciousness, and human potential. He has appeared in such films as Car Wash, Aaron Loves Angela, and The Gambler, and currently can be seen on Amazon Prime's Delusional. He has many theater credits, including What the Wine Cellar Buys, produced and directed by prolific Woody King Jr. I welcome Gasby Brown and Leon Pinkney. Hello, how are you today?
Hello, Stephen.
Hello.
Hello, Stephen, to you.
Hello,
Leon.
Brother Pinkney. How are you
Yes,
doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
And
Good.
hello, Leon.
Hey, Miss Gasby.
What I want to know, first of all, is a question that I had in mind previously, and I never did ask you, Leon. Are
Mhm.
you at all related to Bill Pinkney, who was a founding member of the Drifters, along with Clyde McPhatter?
I do not believe so. My father's name was Bill Higgins, but I took my mother's last name, Pinkney. So no, I never heard of Bill Pinkney until you mentioned it.
Where were you born at?
I was born in Harlem, USA.
Okay. Where was your mother born?
She was born in not Savannah, Georgia. Uh, it'll come back to me, but she wound up in Savannah, Georgia, since she was a baby. Savannah, Georgia. Yeah.
The reason why I asked that is a lot of people from South Carolina
Mhm.
migrate first into Georgia, either being run out of South Carolina and the closest place to get away from, which is not the best place because you're going from Georgia to from South Carolina to Georgia, and there were no differences between the two at that time for black folk. But
Yeah.
a lot of them migrated, so I thought maybe a Pinkney.
Oh no, all the Pinkneys that I've known, including in my family, have originated from Charleston, South Carolina,
Oh,
and then spread out to Florida, Savannah, Georgia, so and so on, New York City eventually, back in the, I believe, the 1930s. But in fact, in about 2 weeks, I'm supposed to be in Charleston, South Carolina for our family reunion.
wow.
So you're kind of
I have
Gullah.
lots of
Yeah,
relatives in Charleston.
yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about the Gullah people, just to interject here. The Gullah people, you're Gullah, Leon?
I was never called that, but my family was raised in Savannah, Georgia, on the Geechee Road. You
Okay,
know,
that's what
All
Gullas
right.
are Geechees.
Geechee, yeah,
Yeah, that Gullah culture is fantastic.
yeah.
Where were you born at, Gadsby?
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, because my parents fled the racial terrorism of the South and
Mm,
made their way from Mississippi to New Orleans to St. Louis and wound up in Detroit, where some other relatives were. You know how that migration pattern was.
yeah.
And so I was born in Detroit because my father wanted my older sister to go to integrated schools, and St. Louis schools were not integrated. And that's
Mm.
how we wound up in Detroit, and that's where I was born.
One of my great friends, did you know him while you in Detroit, Woody King Jr.?
No, I did not. Detroit, but we're probably 2 degrees of separation because so many of us know each other. And there was this definite demarcation between the people who lived on the east side and the folks that lived on the west side. And I started out like one north end on the tip of the east side, but my family moved to the west side. West Siders are the more bougie. East Siders were the hood folks, they said. We were all together. But isn't it something how silly things like that will tend to divide us? But we're all together. But in Detroit, seriously, East Side, West Side, 2 different cultures with Black folks.
Leon, that reminds me of Harlem because north of 96th Street was the hood, and south of 90th Street was the bougie people.
Yeah, when I was born and raised in Harlem, the word ghetto, we didn't hear it. It only became ghetto, I think, probably in the latter 60s, early 70s. Started hearing that word. It was just a neighborhood, a beautiful neighborhood. And in Harlem, if you guys remember on 7th Avenue on Saturdays was when everybody put on their best clothes and just strut and stroll up and down 7th Avenue just to be seen. It was beautiful. And that's near the Teresa Hotel, of course, where all the stars came, which I did see down the block. I was looking at the marquee of the Apollo Theater, and it was just me and this man. We looking, and I looked, it was Joe Louis. In Harlem
Wow.
during that period, you'd never know who you might meet. Sitting in Sylvia one day, and Jesse Jackson walks in with Rosa Parks. It was just amazing.
Amazing.
So,
And Joe Louis was from Detroit, and
oh,
his sister Eunice was my 10th grade English teacher.
wow,
There you
wow,
go, 6 degrees of separation.
There
yeah,
you have it.
yeah, wow,
I
yeah.
remember being at Coppin State in Baltimore, and I would always tell people never talk about anybody because they're gonna tell you that's my cousin.
Oh, yeah,
That's right. That's right. You got to be careful. That's for
yeah,
sure.
Oh,
yeah.
so tell me about your growing up in Detroit. First of all, as an adolescent, as a young child, how was the climate, and how did you perceive it?
Keep in mind that Henry Ford wanted to create a perfect culture, a perfect city with that's cultured. And of course, being in Detroit, with the car industry being there and founded there, my adolescence was filled with an integrated school, number one, a great education. We learned square dancing
Mm,
and foxtrot and waltz and polka, and it was across the board that we learned different dances of different ethnicities. So that was very important. I lived near a Polish community called Hamtramck, which ironically now is all Arab. And it was just a really wonderful experience growing up and being an adolescent in Detroit. My school, my elementary school, Davison Elementary School, still is a blue ribbon elementary school today. But I can remember, even though it was integrated, I was in the third grade when Emmett Till was murdered. And one of my childhood friends, Jerry Outlaw, he was so upset by it. Our normal, everyday playing at recess, white kids with black kids, he began to whip up on all of the white kids on the playground because he was so angry. You had that racial tension. At the same time, there was this coming together, the dichotomy of it all.
Did you first start in kindergarten or did you start at first grade?
Yes, I started in kindergarten, and because I'm born in October, in late October, most of the kids were months older than me. That was interesting. And yes, but starting in kindergarten and going on through and being involved with the Glee Club, I was the primary soloist for the spring and winter concerts. And oh gosh, it was just really wonderful.
So you had a really happy grade school childhood.
Oh, definitely.
There was
And
no tensions in school.
that tension that I described on the playground post Emmett Till murder. But my older sister, the principal there, did tell her that she should seek when she was uh, being a typist rather than doing something else. And then, oh, the other tension. Thank you for bringing that up. My library teacher, Mrs. Mason, I can remember her so well because she wore a very tight bun, chignon. And we would go twice a month to library, and she never gave me a book to read, even though I loved books. But she never gave me a book to read. What she did was give me a dust cloth and some spray so that I could clean her room.
Wow.
That's
That was her vision for me.
that was
Wow.
terrible. That was terrible.
Absolutely.
Leon, how you going to growing up in Harlem back in the day? How was it?
It was beautiful to me as a kid. During that time, you saw pigeons flying around every day in circles, following each other. You go on the roof and you see the chicken coops and the people that ran them. That was like a normal day. And also during that period, you look up in the sky and all kinds of kikes, the big ones, the small ones. And this is in the early 50s. And some of the small kikes had ribbons with razor blades attached to them to cut down the other kikes in the sky. And
Ooh.
yeah, it was just a beautiful sight to see. And downstairs, guys playing stickball. And understand that they hit the ball way down into another block, and they always found the ball. You understand that? And it was the black and the Hispanics, Puerto Ricans together. And but at that time, 5 years old, my mother used to let us come downstairs and play as long as you stayed in front of the stoop. She didn't have to worry about somebody coming and snatching us, stealing us, kidnapping us. And it was beautiful. I just had a ball in Harlem. I just loved it.
I partially grew up in Harlem also, not a whole lot because my father was in the military, so we traveled around. But I remember in the fifth grade going across the street to play basketball till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And there
Yeah.
was this one woman that sat on the porch of the building that my grandmother lived in. Her name was Mrs. Brown.
Oh.
No relation.
And she would not let you pass by unless you said, "Hello, Miss Brown. Goodbye, Miss Brown.
Or
Can I
maybe she
get you
was a
something, Miss
relation.
Brown?"
Yeah.
That sounds like
Oh.
me.
Oh. Now, what school did you go to in when you first started out, Leon?
I can't remember the name of the public school, but it was a few blocks away. And I remember my first day of class. My sister, she was in the third grade when I was in the first grade. And my sister, she was one of those monitors. She was one of the
Oh,
ones
yes.
with another
The,
girl, to come
with the
around with.
cross hand.
Yeah, no, I was that in junior high school.
Oh, okay.
What she did was she would bring cookies and grilled cheese to different classes, to the different students, at least in the first grade. And I was proud. That's my sister. And so that was the first grade. The second day of the first grade, I played hooky. My sister, she went to a class, and I decided, you know something? The second day, I don't feel like going to school today. So I went and hung out in the park across the street. playground that had the swings and the seesaws and the monkey bars. And I played on that. And then when 12 o'clock came, the kids came out and came to the park and they played just for a half an hour, whatever the lunch break was. And they went back in and I'm over there in the park by myself again. I think I was 6 years old. And so I'm playing on the monkey bars and I'm just waiting. It's like the time is taking forever to come before my sister come out. Finally, the bell rang, everybody came out. But by that time, I was on top of the monkey bar. Somehow I fell off, the sliding board. I fell off. And the next thing I knew, my second day at school, this big, tall boy was carrying me home. I woke up in his arms with a bunch of kids walking behind me, including my sister. I had knocked myself out. That was my second day of school, Harlem. Yeah, so
That showed you couldn't be a good criminal, huh?
yeah. But that was my last day ever playing hooky again.
Yeah, that was a real knockout.
That was a knockout, I tell you.
Oh man.
But I never played hooky after that.
Did you ever do something like that, Gasby?
No, I would not have even thought about playing hooky when I was in elementary school or junior high. It was, first of all, we lived right across the street from the school, and my mother made lunch for me every day that I was in school. So that was a no miss. But it would not have even been a thought. But I skipped school one day in high school. And it was the most miserable day that I can think of because I felt so guilty the whole time that I was letting my parents down. And it just wasn't fun. And I said, I don't want to do that anymore. Don't
Tell me, were you considered a nerd then?
me? No, I wasn't. I was considered okay, so I could sing, love to dance, and I had just a myriad of friends. I had the gangsters, and I had the what they called them in Detroit, elites. And the elites, which would be elite, but elites. But I had friends across the board, socially, economically, and all of that. As a matter of fact, because I had some gangster friends, a couple of girls who wanted to jump on me, when I told them who I knew, they backed off. So yeah, I wasn't considered a nerd. I was considered one of the girls you want to know.
When I did hooky per se, one time when I was in the 5th grade with my uncle, he was 2 years older than me, and we were going to PS 133.
Oh,
And at those days, you took off and you'd get on the train and ride the train all day, half the day. So we rode up to 242nd Street to Van Cortlandt Park. We didn't get off the train because we didn't have no money to get back on the train. But we rode up there and rode back. And after that, I said, this is boring. But I did during my high school would skip classes if I didn't feel like taking it or I didn't do the homework for that day. But
Yeah.
I would go to school, but I just wouldn't go to that class. I just walk around the hallway.
You walk around the hallway. We couldn't do that. You had those. That's when you had those monitors monitoring the hallways to catch you walking down the hallway. I don't know how you got away with it.
well, and see, remember, I grew up in the church. My father was a Baptist preacher, and my mother was very involved in the church. And so I think probably that moral compass coming out of that environment probably had everything to do with me not just my wanting to do the right thing as much as possible.
Yeah. Church as well. We had to go 3 times on Sundays, 3 times on Sundays.
Oh, was it a
Especially
Baptist church,
when
Leon?
Yes, it was. Daddy Grace.
Oh, Daddy
Oh,
Grace.
Grace.
I remember
Yeah.
Sweet Daddy Grace would
That's
came
right.
to 116th Street because he would turn on the water faucet to baptize people.
That's
So people
115th.
would
That's
get
115th
underneath
Street.
the water and they're baptized.
115th Street. You know what I say, Stephen? 115th Street.
Yes,
Because
that's
I'm
where my
there
grandmother
every-
lived at, 115th Street.
I did too. Where?
115th Street at the Stephen Foster Projects.
I was in. My aunt lived in 70, right on the corner. Right.
Oh, I know. I knew a whole lot of people in 70.
Right. My aunt was on the 12th floor.
Mine was 40 West on the 3rd floor.
Oh, my aunt lived in 40. Another aunt lived in 40. West as well.
Really?
Yeah, that's right.
What was her name?
Her name was Martha. We call her Aunt Cute.
Cute.
Cute. Yeah.
What floor did she live on?
I can't remember. I was a kid, right? But when I lived in 70, she was on the 12th floor from her window. It's facing that same street where people were getting baptized at. I saw in 1959 when Castro came to America in those two white ships. I could see those two white ships docked at the river during that period. And years later, Mayor had a celebration where I think all the leaders was coming to New York to the UN, and Mayor threw a big party, but he excluded Castro. He didn't like him. And so Castro came to Reverend Calvin Butt's church. We all went over there, and a lot of activists hung up with Castro. And I felt so bad for him. Here he is, secretary as well, and Giuliani just treated him like trash. So he hung out with us. So that was good.
He was after
He was
Dinkins.
doing 9/11, 9/11.
Yeah, doing the Million Man March. So what was that, 1994, 5, something like that, in that era?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was during that period. Yeah.
Now tell me about your high school experiences. We'll start with you, Gasby.
High school, I wound up going to a high school in the 9th grade called Central High School. And that too was a wonderful experience because it was a different culture for me. Once again, that East Side, West Side culture. And I was a lead soloist there. I played the role and sang the role of Amneris in Aida because the musical head of the musical department or member of the musical department was Ollie McFarland. And she had a great desire to be an opera singer. But because of segregation and racism and all of that, she was not able to achieve it. And so she poured into us. And here we are in this urban high school mounting full costumed excerpts of operas. And it was just magnificent, just wonderful. So that was a big part of my high school experience. And just really, we didn't have a lot of gangs in Detroit. We had social clubs. They were called like the CoQs and the minor CoQs and the hexagons and hexagram. Those people from Detroit, they will know exactly what I'm talking about because even we would dress up in what would be called prom dresses and tuxedos even before there was prom time because there would be these big dances and galas. And Diana Ross, for example, she won Miss Hexagon. And I can remember that very clearly when she did.
Wow.
And we would go to dances at labor union halls and what have you, and just dance our hearts out. I would get my hair pressed and go to the dance. And when I came out, my hair was an afro because
Before Afro came out, right?
before afros were there.
It's funny when you said social clubs because here in New York, we knew social clubs to be mafia hangouts at that time. They had social clubs that they went to. You knew
Cultural
not to go,
differences, right?
as a Black, you knew not to walk in that door.
Wow. Yeah. It was totally different.
What was your field of study during that time? And did you have any influences in school that carried over that you can think of today?
Yes. Now, it was a college. I was in the college prep program. So I took like 2 years of Latin, 2 years of French, and just a little Spanish, but it was for college prep. And during that time, too, we were very much activists because we really wanted to make sure that there was equity. I remember there was a guy, Tony Rutherford, and he led the students, and we were out protesting something. I don't even remember what it was, but we were being activists at that time and very conscious about what discrimination actually meant. My high school experiences were very good, and overall, my schooling experiences were good, except when a bunch of girls decided they wanted to jump on me and beat me up the last day of school in junior high school. And that was a very interesting situation. My sister, I told her about it, and she came up with my play brother. And she told me, she said, now, you all are not going to jump on her all at one time, but she'll fight you one on one. I said, yikes to myself. What are you talking
I bet you in school at that time, you were a lover of Johnny Mathis.
Oh, yes.
You see,
Uh,
that's what I learned very early on. If you wanted to get a certain type of girl in New York, the nerdy kind, you had to say
the
that
good
you like
girl.
Johnny Mathis.
I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, love
But
some Johnny Mathis. And remember now from Detroit, we have the Temptations, the Contours, the every kind of entertainer that you want to think of. Jackie Wilson lived just maybe 12 blocks from us. Brian Holland and his brother, they lived 6 blocks from us. And my older sister knew his girlfriend and they went to school together. So that the whole fabric of music was part of who we were in Detroit. Going to the dance was just a manifestation of the love of music.
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
all right. Leon, what high school, junior high school did you go to? And did you have anyone that in or any teachers that influenced you that you could sit back now and say, hey, they helped me in terms of my life
Yeah.
experiences?
I went to junior high school 71, which was on the Lower East Side. And right on the same block, there was Gasby said, a social club, did you say? Ours was called
Yes.
a community center. And there we played ping pong, pool, and that's where we go to the dances. And we're talking about in the 1960s, early 1960s. And in school, the teacher that influenced me the most, I think his name was Miss Goldstein, Mr. Goldstein, our science teacher. He was a psychic, and he would take balls of paper that we would write something on, like a question to him, and he would have us ball it up really tight, and he would put it up to his head, and he would call out our names and tell us what we wrote. It was amazing, just blew my mind, and he was legit. And from that time, I studied hypnosis, my wife and I. So I understand the mind, and I understand how energy works because we're both, she teaches social psychology, and but we are energy healers also, right? And we could use that energy healing to reach anybody. I don't care who you are. You could be on the moon, and I could reach you energetically, right? We still get calls from Thailand. Somebody
Wow.
got a toothache or whatever. Anyway, and so, but I started thinking on that level because of Mr. Goldstein. Yeah, how could he do that? How could he something? Some people are born with it. I don't know about him, but he seems to have been. But it made me interested in the unseen, how the mind works and the brain and the subconscious and so on. Then I went to Sewell Park High School, which is over near Delancey Street. You remember the Bowery Boys, the TV show
Yes.
used to come on? Many of
Slick
them,
Mahoney.
that's
They
right,
still do. They
that's
still
right.
do. They come on Turner Classic Movies
Oh,
on
really?
Saturdays.
I used to love to see that every Saturday. I just love it, but I haven't seen them in years. But they went to Sewell Park High School, also a lot of them. And I had a wood shop teacher, a little short Jewish man, hunchback, really deep voice. And one day I'm in class, wood shop class, and I'm scratching my name on the wood desk and just digging in there. He sees me. He comes, "What are you doing? What?" And I jumped and snapped. And he said, "You see that name right there? You're trying to be like this guy? Are you trying to be like this guy?" And it was the name was Bernie Swartz. And he said, "You know who that is? Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis' real name is Bernie Swartz." And so I'm carving my name in the desk, just like Tony Curtis was carving his name in the desk. And when I became an actor, I always wanted to meet Tony Curtis, and I thought I was going to meet him. I met everybody else, it seemed. Charleston Heston, me and Bill Duke met Charleston Heston together in California, in Hollywood. But I never met Tony Curtis to tell him that him and I had the same wood shop teacher, and I carved my name right next to his. Talking about, I don't know, synchronicity or whatever. But I got my first job while I was in Sewell Park High School, right on the same block in a Hasidic Jewish store that sold buttons and hangers. And at the end of the week, he would pay me. He would say, he would take out money from his pocket and just says, "Is this enough?" And it would be like $17. I had to work my butt off for the whole week hard for $17. But hey, listen, I'm a kid, I took it. Yeah.
Stephen, can I go back and give a
Yes.
shout out? You've inspired me, Leon, to talk about a couple more of the teachers that were really influential to me. One was Mrs. Goldstein,
Ah,
who had the most beautiful handwriting, cursive handwriting. And I wanted to write just like her, and I was able to emulate that to some degree. And then there was Mr. Mason. He was my art teacher, and he was so fine. And unbeknownst to me, and unbeknownst to him even, he sent a note to my parents because we had done a still life with some pastel chalk and whatever. And he sent a note home to my parents saying that he thought I had some promise. And so my dad, who is always supportive as well as my mom, he got the graphic art person from the government, federal government, the entity he was working for, and he got him to come and teach me something. I spent 2 things with him to get something about the anatomy. Now, remembering that this is all fuzzy now because I'm in the 3rd grade, I don't really remember him, and I'm off into baton twirling and tap dancing and ballet and flower arranging because my curious mind was taking me some of everywhere. But look at what he predicted at that point without knowing that I would become a visual artist today, all of these years later, because I didn't become a visual artist until maybe 20 years ago. And that was a definite influence. And then Conrad Mallett, who was my 8th grade math teacher, and he was fine too. There's a string here. And he was very influential in my development. He was just very encouraging and just a really great teacher.
So you all had some great influences. The other thing that I wanted to say before I move on is, Leon, did you see that show I did with Bill Duke?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You saw the
Yes,
shout out that we gave
I
you?
sure did. I did. Yeah. He's oh, I was waiting for him to say more. Believe it, but not only did I take classes with him in 1973 at New Federal Theater, Woody hired him. Here go Woody again, Woody King Jr. Great teacher. Listen, I've gone and studied theater with some of the top teachers like in the country, particularly. And if you ask me what college I went to, or Carnegie Mellon University, but my best teacher out of all of them was Bill Duke, right? Not only did he teach, but he directed me in the play. And when you told me to go and look at that, I thought he might mention that. Listen, when he directs you in the play, you have to work. You have to not pretend that you are that character. You have to be that character. And he teaches you how to, like, for instance, in our minds right now, Stephen, Gasby, Leon, we have a particular part in our brain that we go to when we want to talk about whatever, our history. With Bill, you create another place in your brain where your character speaks from. Or even when you don't have dialogue, somebody else is speaking and you're not thinking from your personal space in the brain, you're thinking from this other space in the brain. But you would have to do work to have created a life for that particular character with just as much content in that memory as you have in your personal life. So if a person was to ask you, Stephen, if you wrote a book on your life, how many pages would it take? You might say, I don't know, 500 pages, even though it would probably take 1,000,000, but let's say 500 pages. Then they say, okay, how many pages, if you wrote a book on your character's life, how many pages would it take? Most people say 2 pages, 3 pages. But if it takes you 500 pages to write about your life, it should take the same amount of pages to write about your character. That's how deep Bill Duke have you go and dig into your character, and so your character becomes like a real live human being.
Well, you remember Kenya said, I could say this on the broadcast because he's in California, I'm here. Bill Duke was a taskmaster.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah,
Brilliant, brilliant.
yeah.
Now, what college did you go to, Gasby? Did you immediately go to college, or that came later on?
Being the non-nerd that I was, I got married immediately after high school, got pregnant, and had a child, and then the marriage didn't work out, and I got divorced very early, and I started working in a spark plug factory because it was honest work and I needed to take care of my daughter and myself. And so I was working there, and then something called Wayne County Community College opened up, and there was no need for an entrance exam or anything. And I decided to stick my toe back into being someone who wanted more education. So I started out taking 2 classes and loved them. They were dedicated teachers and professors, and just really added to that. And there were semesters where I was taking 9 classes and
Wow.
working 2 jobs. I eventually stopped working for at the spark plug factory. But I have to say this too about government programs that have now been eliminated. I was part of the CETA program. I can't
I
remember
remember that.
Oh, I
that.
remember.
And that was what paid for me to go from Wayne County Community College to Wayne State University,
Wow.
where I
Yeah.
was able to get my bachelor's in at Wayne County Community College. My degree, my associate's degree, was in African
Mhm.
American Studies. And then I went to Wayne State University and studied. My major was psychology with a minor in cultural anthropology as well as English. And then went on from there to, after working for a while, went on to Harvard and got my master's from Harvard in communications management, cross registered at the business school, and also was part of the renowned media lab at MIT. So
That's
Mm.
when you really became a
time
nerd,
for
right?
me.
Wow. Beautiful.
Did you hear what I said?
What'd you say?
I said that's when you really became a nerd.
Exactly. Ain't that the truth?
I have a friend, I haven't heard in quite some time, who went to Wayne State also. She became a lawyer and a judge, Linda Bernard.
The
um,
name is very, very familiar to me. I don't know her personally, but I know of her.
yeah, she's still in Detroit. Yes.
Very good.
Now, did you go to college, Leon?
I went to Carnegie Mellon University for acting. Ted Danson was in my class, and Sonia Manzano, who played Maria for years on Sesame Street, was in my class. Some of you may have heard of a fantastic actress, Michelle Shea. Anybody who's in Black theater know who I'm talking about. She was, when I was a freshman, she was already a senior. Great actress, still doing her thing. Judith Light, who
Mm,
played in Who's the
Okay.
Boss? She was a senior, and they would be doing Shakespeare, and I'd be on the side giving Edith a massage before she went on stage. But so that's why I went to school at the top voice speech teacher, etc. Even though it don't sound like it. But I loved being at Carnegie Mellon University. As a matter of fact, that's when me, Sonia Manzano, Maria, Sesame Street, I went to the Sesame Street studio with her the day that we went together and some other students. And she began to work there up until she retired. I'm not sure how many years now, but years. So, but I was there when she first went and looked at the place, all the puppets, whatever. But even though I had some fantastic teachers there, again, the best teacher besides Dick Anthony Williams, who also taught at New Federal Theater, Woody King, but Bill Duke he was deep. That was where I learned, emulated, and came up with some of my own ways of teaching theater, sprung
Let me
from
ask you a
those.
question. The first performance that you did, and you were just getting ready to go out on stage, how did you feel?
Okay, that goes back to the question you asked, who were my best teachers? Besides the one that I mentioned, Mr. Goldstein was Miss Boston, Black sister. She used to let us, like doing playtime in the class, give us the opportunity to do whatever you want to do in front of the class. What I did was do magic tricks. I didn't know how to do magic tricks. Just get up there and try. The class just loved it and they clapped for me doing actually nothing, right? But just getting up in front of the class, that was the beginning of my acting career. Just getting up and acting in front of the class, acting stupid and dumb, and they laughed. And so the first play I did was Woody. He didn't start with New Federal Theater. He started with an organization called the Mobilization for Youth. He
Yes,
was
I
the
remember.
artistic director of dance, song, and theater. So I was in theater, and all the teachers that Woody had for us came from NEC, the Negro Ensemble Company. On the second floor was African dance, taught by Rod Rogers. You may have heard of him. And on the third floor was singing, taught by Garrett Morris, right? And that was Woody came from Detroit to New York in 1964. I met Woody in 1966. And I came to Woody as a writer, and he put me in the acting workshop and said that he was going to pay me $45 every 2 weeks. I took it in flash. It was right from where I lived. The first play I did was written by J.E. Franklin, playwright, and A's Independent Children, I think it was. And she would be there watching us rehearse. The second play I did was written by Ed Bullins. Ed would be there in the theater watching us rehearse. How did I feel? I, I felt brave. I didn't feel, oh, people watching me, because even then, when I began the character, I just got into it and loved it. But Woody had already had some great young actors in his class, Richard Mason, Richard Wong, and I emulated those guys. I studied those guys. Richard Mason, he eventually became a assistant producer with What's It Like It Is, Gil Noble, right? But when Richard would act, he played a junkie. And the junkies wanted to jump him because they thought that he was like in their hood getting some good. You get that good stuff from my heroin, because he was playing a heroin addict and he did it so well, slobbering, and they thought he had some good stuff. But when I watched Richard, I said, wow, he got deep even before I understood anything that Bill Duke was teaching. So I emulated those guys. So when it was time for me to do some acting, I wanted so deep to be like them that I just forgot the people was watching me. I forgot what they called the fourth wall, right? The fourth wall didn't exist. And that's where the audience sat at. So it wasn't hard. I just forgot that they were looking.
Woody, as you might know, or you might not know, he was the first person that I interviewed when I started this series, and he told me he came in '64 to New York, and the reason why he came to New York is because he was included in a book that Langston Hughes wrote. He had met Langston Hughes in Detroit in 1959. And he kept up communications with Langston because while Langston was in Detroit, he took Langston around and stuff, and they hung out together. So when Langston invited him to come to New York, and he came to New York in terms of that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm sorry, Stephen, because you mentioned Detroit, and I'm a 313 girl. And people don't really realize how important Detroit was in terms of telling the barometer of Black thought, Black progress, Black acting, intellectual movement. They were watching Detroit, and that's why there was so much going on. It was the intersection place, or the place where people would gather, and Detroit was just really wonderful in that regard. So shout out to Detroit. I just wanted to make sure you did that.
Uh, but Woody was such a great friend for me that we used to have lunch once a month. And we first started off at the Pink Teacup.
Yeah.
We would have lunch there every month. And then when the Pink Teacup closed, we moved uptown to Sylvia's. To this day, I do miss him. And shout out to Elizabeth, his wife. And what some characters said, and that's my story.
And you're
I did. I love the original Pink Teacup as well. Remember, because there was another one after the original one. That's
Yes,
small.
it was
It wasn't the
bigger
same. Yeah,
and it
you're right.
wasn't the same
Yeah,
because the
that
other
nice,
one was a
quaint,
more
homey.
intimate,
Right.
little smaller place.
But when you guys went there, it was my cousin who managed it, Vincent Pinkney, because he still talks about Woody until this day.
I don't
You know?
remember your cousin. See,
Yeah,
I knew your cousin, didn't know you.
yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember the Pink Teacup when I lived in New York. So yeah,
yeah. It
it
was
was the
beautiful.
place to be. Yes,
Fried chicken, macaroni, cheese,
that's
greens.
right.
Oh man.
Yes,
Now, tell
indeed.
me about your career, Gasby. You went to Harvard. You're out of Harvard. You got this degrees, and oh,
Yeah, I was degreed up, wasn't I?
hey, you became a nerd.
And then I moved to New York. I
Oh,
loved it. I fell in love with the East Coast, the Northeast Coast culture. I remember when I first got to Harvard and people were inviting me to their houses and they said, "Oh, you got to go over to X person's home because it's just so beautiful." And I'd walk up there and I said, "Where's the front yard and the backyard?" Because it was a totally different housing stock. but the curiosity and the culture of the Northeast just really resonated with me. And as a result, I moved to New York from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and immediately got an internship with American Express. And from there, I began to work for WNET Channel 3, which is a whole nother story of how I landed there. I can blame racquetball for that because I was really a good racquetball player. And I would play with men because women couldn't keep up with me. Sorry, lady, but they couldn't. But so I played with men, and I played with this one guy who was going to WNET to be the chief operating officer, George Miles. And I was congratulating him in the Palm Court of the Plaza Hotel. I said, let's meet there and we're going to just have a toast to your accomplishment. And he began sharing his vision with me about what he wanted to do at WNET. And I was giving him feedback. He said, say, what would it take for you to come over here and do this work? And I wrote it on a napkin.
Wow.
And that's how I became the marketing and director for the education division for WNET 13. And then from there went on to falling into having my own talk show called Black Viewpoint because someone asked me to coach them on being on a good friend of mine, coach them because they had an interview coming up on the station downtown New York, and it was a public broadcasting station. And he said, I just need this coaching. I said, okay. He called me up. He said, what are you doing for lunch? I'm hungry. I said, nothing. He said, good. Let's hop in a cab. Today is my interview. So I coached him on the way in the taxi. While he was in the interview, I'm sitting out waiting for him. And there was a guy just leaning against the door. And we talked about everything from soup to nuts. And we got ready to leave. The interview was over. And the guy who was standing there, he said, say, have you ever done TV? And I said, yes, as a guest, but never as talent, because I was with the Census Bureau and a national spokesperson for that. And so he said, I said, why did you ask? He said, because I'm looking for someone. And that's how I became the host of the 15-minute lead in to the news
Wow.
of that
That's beautiful.
station. And from there, Rudy Brown at the McCrary Report saw that and asked one of my colleagues if I had a reel. I didn't have a reel, didn't know what he was talking about. And the guy's name who had me at Black Viewpoint, his name was George Augustine. I told him about it. He said, I'll make you a reel. Made me a reel. And then they asked me to do an audition. And I remember having an interview with a jazz violinist. And it went, I thought. But then that Sunday I was watching TV and there was my piece, my audition being aired. So I
Wow.
told him that Monday, I said, I saw my piece. I saw my piece on TV. They said, oh, we forgot to tell you, you're hired.
Wow.
And of course, I had to vet this with WNET because I'm working there full time, and they felt that it would be nothing but an addition to what I had to do as marketing director.
Wow.
And so I was doing all of that and then eventually became a freelancer full time. I left WNET. I was the New York correspondent for Black Entertainment Television. So I had this Money Matters segment during the day, working for Fox Television, Channel 5 in New York. And then at night, interviewing everybody you could think of, from Lena Horne to Paul Winfield to Denzel Washington, you name it. I was interviewing folks in the entertainment industry. And boy, I'm running out of breath. But from there, I went to work at Greenpeace as the National Communications Director. I wanted some international PR experience, and I got it. The headquarters was in Amsterdam, and the communications headquarters was in London. So I traveled there to do work on several occasions. And then from there, the National Urban League recruited me to be the vice president of communications. Within 18 months, they asked me to take on fundraising and development. So I became the senior vice president at the National Urban League and put together many programs that are still in place today to ratchet up and to lift up the brand. And then from there, the Washington Opera, it was called at that time, asked me to come and be the executive vice president, in which I was the highest ranking African American in the opera world on the administrative side. And within 6 months, using a lobbying firm, I just looked at it. I said, we've got Placido Domingo here, and it's in Washington, D.C., limited number of corporations. We need to expand this footprint. And as a result of that, I wanted national designation. and got it within 6 months using with
Oh,
lobbying firm. Now, and that is why what was called the Washington Opera is now called the Washington National Opera today.
beautiful, beautiful. Gasby, are you in New York or are you in Detroit right now?
I am in Atlanta. I live in
Oh,
Atlanta.
oh, okay.
Yes, but right now I am in Maryland helping a dear friend of mine
Yeah,
at the polls because she's running for an office, a state office. So I'm,
beautiful, beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful. That's a
I,
beautiful,
I, I, I
resume
must tell
that you
you,
just
thank you.
I must tell you, Gasby, I have to use one of your lines that you said several times. I remember you on those broadcasts way back when, and I say, boy, she's fine.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I love
And then we had two people, one person that I know that you work with that I was great friends, particularly with her husband, and that's Gina Davis Watkins.
Oh yes, yes, Gina. Yes, at the
Yes.
Gina was really
And the other
brilliant.
thing
Yeah.
is that I know that this was probably after your term working there because he didn't become the chair CEO until much later, Ken Chenault.
No, yeah, while I was there, it was oh gosh, his last name was I can't think of it right now, but his dad was a member of the board of trustees of the National Urban League and he inherited that. He was the vice chair. And when Ken Chenault came on, he stayed with the vice chair role. At the time of that I was there, it was Reg Brock, who was chair of the board of the National Urban League, who was also the chair of Time Inc. And ironically, when I was with Greenpeace, we had signed out and stopped traffic on 50th Street and Avenue of the Americas and for an action, as Greenpeace called it, because the waterways were being polluted with chlorine because Time magazine used chlorinated paper. And some of the activists, they scaled the building and everything. So when I went to meet with Reg Brock about the National Urban League, he lit into me about Greenpeace climbing his walls and doing what it did to stop the chlorinated water. But I don't know if I had the presence of mind to say I could probably write a book about Greenpeace, but today I'm still on their payroll. And he switched right off, and we got into the interview. And to this, so many years, we were good friends. In fact, I went to him when I saw Opportunity Journal. I was in this little dusty room and trying to get orientation on what to do at the National Urban League to expand its brand, and saw Opportunity Journal and Langston Hughes, Elaine Locke, and all of these people were writing and being exposed, just like the Crisis magazine. But it had stopped. So I went to Reg. I said, I'd love to bring this publication back. If you would give us advertising support and paper for 2 years, I guarantee you in 2 years it will be self sufficient. And it became a 120-page journal magazine. And in 2 years, guess what happened? We were self
It was
sufficient.
self-sufficient.
oh,
Now, the
beautiful.
reason why I bring up Ken Chenault's is because I have been doing family research for the last 10 or 15 years in depth. And I've got about 4,000 people on my family tree.
Oh,
A lot of my relatives that I didn't know. One of my relatives was named Malachi Bowman, and his wife, who left him because he was much older than her, and he didn't want to move to New York, I would imagine, because they were South Carolina. So she moved to New York and bought a house down the street from where I moved from just last year, the
mhm.
next block over. Her grandnephew was Ken Chenault.
Really?
Mhm.
Yes. And her nephew was Charles Quick. And Charles Quick was one of the lawyers underneath Thurgood Marshall on the Brown versus Board of Education.
Oh, wow.
And I always encourage people to look at their family history because we have such illustrious people in our families that we don't even know about. They're all the way on maybe a brother's family or sister's family. They moved to a different city, but they've done wonderful things.
Yes, that's so true.
Now, tell me, for both of you all, but we'll start with you, Leon. What are some of the things that you're doing now and some of the things that you want to do in the future?
Okay, I'm writing now. I've always been writing. I never stopped writing. But I'm putting together a screenplay and a play for Tria Joseph, which is Alicia Keys' mother, right? And her and an actor who's been in just about all of August Wilson plays, Jerome Preston Bates. You know who I'm talking about? Jerome Preston Bates?
Say that again.
Jerome Preston Bates, great actor.
Now, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you've been in the same company as he. I've seen all of us together. And I ran into Alicia Keys. She was at a memorial for someone at the Riverside Church. The mother was there. He was in theater, and it was a week after Woody passed away. And the repast was held in the church. And I always wanted to ask her mother if she would ask Alicia Keys if she would do the music for this screenplay I was writing. But at the repast, Alicia was standing alone. Her mother and Elaine Graham was talking on the side. And I went up and asked her myself. Me and her mother, we're in a film on Amazon Prime right now called Delusional. I sent you the thing, Gasby, this morning.
Yes, I can't wait to see it.
When I probably woke you up. I was texting her different things that I did this morning, Stephen, just so when she got on, she did it. And I asked Alicia, I said, I was going to ask you if you would write the music to this movie I'm writing for your mother. And she says, with a smile, maybe. I said, that's a good sign. She didn't say no. So I'm writing about that. But I'm also writing about, for her mother as well, a play that I wanted Woody to produce, but he's on now. But I'll get it done one way or another. It's a four-character play, and it's about this blind man who's a serial killer, right? Well, he's blind, but he can go out and take care of business, right? So I'm writing about that. And her mother's a great actress because what's that show, Empire? Remember the show Empire?
Yes, absolutely.
Her mother, when Alicia was on it, her mother played her, was it her lawyer or her agent in it? Fantastic actress. I got her mother to audition for the film Delusional. She didn't get the role she wanted, which would have been played opposite me. She got a good role and she did a wonderful, fantastic job. A great actress. So I want to work with her some more. So that's what's being done. That's what's now. I'm putting together my book that I've been writing for many years. And it's a metaphysical book called Light in the Tower. And I'm getting people to understand, or that's my hope, and some have begun to understand that there's really no difference between yesterday and tomorrow. It really don't exist. Yesterday and tomorrow don't exist. The only thing that really exists is now, because if you in China, I'm in New York right now, so it's day. China is night. In other places in the world, it's different times of day. But everybody's standing on the globe. And if you ask everybody which way is up, everybody's going to point in the direction that they're standing. And up is whatever side of the earth you go on. So in reality, there's no such thing as up. It's a perception, right? There is absolutely no such thing as up. It don't exist. But we've been trained to not think about that simple truth, right? Aging, nobody age, because you never move out of now. Because the only thing that determines tomorrow is the Earth revolving around the sun, right? 365 days. And it's spinning as it evolves, right? Or orbits. And when it spins, if you face the sun, you don't face the sun. You face the sun, you face the dark space. And we call that day and night. We call that yesterday and tomorrow. But right now in Thailand, it's yesterday. And I went to Phuket and I was in China, Beijing. And for some parts of the world, it's still in yesterday, while other parts of the world are in tomorrow, right? So you telling me that yesterday and tomorrow exist at the same time? It don't exist at all. It's only now.
Wow.
Now, if there is no such thing as yesterday and tomorrow, then what causes you to age? What causes you to age? You are ageless. You are absolutely zero. Nothing changed but a perception. And when you begin to know that truth, in an example that you guys may have heard before, every 365 days, people say, Happy New Year. Okay, why is the year new? Because it's got a higher number. 2025 is the old year because it's been used up, it's gone. 22 or 26 is the new year. I said, wait a minute, it takes that same 365 days for me to get a higher number. But when I get a higher number, I'm older. And it's the same 365 days. But the year is newer. There's a contradiction there. So when we begin to understand the truth, our bodies, our cells, our organs, our chakras, our meridians understand our language. Those parts about us is conscious and it knows the truth. But when we know the truth, no matter what age you call yourself, I'm zero, by the way. We all are. But I say it because I know it.
I love that. I love that.
And it's true. So
Oh,
once you
wow.
know it, you own it. And when people try to force you to say, no, you're not zero, once you know the truth, don't backtrack. Because what happens is when your cells, your organs, your bodies, and your skin, and the collagen in your skin hear, oh, she knows the truth, he knows the truth, it begins to do a reversal of aging.
That is, oh, Leon,
Because
what
the
you
truth,
have just shared is
that's right,
just
know the truth, and it shall do
incredible.
what? Set you free. Be,
And
yes.
you need to do a TED Talk, Leon. I would just urge you to do this. Is an idea worth
Yeah.
sharing. It is very provocative and it is thought provoking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
really think that you
Yeah.
should. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
whatever you're writing,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, keep
Yeah.
doing it.
So I just started a Facebook web page called Inner Vision. I just started it not long ago, and I'm talking about that and putting up certain videos to get to those basic understanding. And it's very simple to understand because I've been around people who, when they try to speak about reality, they use these big words, and it was like, but Jesus spoke in parables. Jesus spoke was speaking to the right side of the brain, which deals with art, right? You don't have to think, you just listen.
Imagination, yes.
That's right. And you get it. But if you talk to the left brain, to a person, when you talk about analytical stuff, and they got to figure out whether or not what you're saying is true. Some people can talk to you and you know what they're talking about instantly. You know the truth instantly. Not because of the data that they're feeding you, but because of the truth that they're giving you. And it comes to you as truth with crystal clear understanding versus I got to think about what you just now said. And that's where doubts come. And that's part of hypnosis as well. You hypnotize somebody and you tell them that you're holding a puppy. You can't tell them that they're not holding a puppy. They feel that puppy, they smell that puppy, they hear the puppy breathe. For that person, that puppy exists for real. We are magical beings and we can create those realities. Even if nobody sees it, we see it, it's real. We see our dreams, right? Somebody else didn't see our dream, but we saw it. And sometimes it frightened us. Sometimes we people's faces and their expressions and their features very clearly. And you're an artist, and I do some artwork too. But can we draw and paint that perfect? Could we create a being looking so perfect? No, these are spiritual beings and other kind of beings that really exist. So that's what I'm doing right now. I want that book out. I want that screenplay done. And I'm at the point right now that I need to do something that's meaningful, that could change people's lives for the best. And one of them is getting them to understand that you've been lied to or tricked. You're not getting over. Old is in the past, isn't it? Old days, old pair of shoes, old book. When you was 1 year old, where's old at? What direction is old in? Old can't be in the future. We're moving into perpetual newness, aren't we?
Yes, we
So
are.
you can't get old because old is not where you're going. Old is where you've been. So
It's fascinating thinking. I feel very intrigued by it.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and think about it more, and then it's going to be when it becomes truth, and you accept it. Watch the change, the physical change that happens.
Now that you brought up Alicia Keys, I just wanted to give a shout out because she did a great job at the New York Knicks celebration. It was a
Yes, you
wonderful
did.
thing. I remember meeting her mother at a workshop with Glenn Turman and a couple of other people. Now, your turn, Gasby.
No,
To the future.
I am thinking about what
Well,
Leon
hold on
said
for just
about,
1 second, please. Just one
yeah.
second. I just want to tell the audience that this is a woman who sealed her nerdom by doing 600 paintings as self-taught.
Wow.
Self-taught 600
Yeah,
provocative
approaching
paintings.
700 now.
Wow.
Thank you for that, Stephen. And to it's piggybacking on what Leon said about dreams. I was having in 2002, I was having these dreams of painting trees and other objects. They wouldn't leave me, awake or sleep. And finally, in July of 2002, I woke up and I told my late husband, I'm going to start painting. It wasn't, honey, what you think. It was a declaration. I'm going to start painting because it was just so pervasive in me. I had never painted before in my life. And I went to Michael's and I got paint, canvas, and brushes, and I just started. There were a few people who knew me because of my career that I had done with philanthropy and other things. And they, oh, Gasby calls herself painting, huh? And then there are these other people who really encouraged me. One, Dwayne Sims, he would say, and hang up all of your art around your house because we entertained a lot. And I did that. And don't you know, some of those same people who were laughing said, Casby, how can we buy a piece of your art? You want a piece of this? So it was a very interesting journey. And my first show that was in Washington, D.C., I sold over 30 pieces, which was,
Wow.
and I didn't know that was outstanding. That was how green I am. And to a certain extent, I'm still learning the art industry, which is quite an interesting and involved situation. So I just began to paint everything that was in me and just bringing it out. Whatever was in my head or in my heart. This piece behind me is a piece that I painted for my dear friend Doris when she got married. And so here I am sitting and that's in back of me. But these, I tell stories through my art. And based on my lived experience and based on things that I have seen and felt deeply about. So, for example, I have a series now, it's an educational series, and it's called Backstage Barriers and Beyond, where I have painted, and it's very abstract, but painting mixed media pieces, and they're large, 36 by 48, women, Black women, who have been musicians and have either given a lot to the civil rights movement or suffered from it or the social justice movement and being involved in that. So, for example, I have Billie Holiday featured and Lena Horne, Mahalia Jackson, as you probably know the story about how she had given so much money to the civil rights movement. And when Martin Luther King was giving his speech, she had already performed and she could see out in the audience, he had a lot of words to say. And she said she felt that he was losing the audience and they were really good buddies. And so she said, tell him to dream. And that's when he really went off into I Have
Wow.
a Dream. So I have iconic things like that embedded in these pieces. Another one is not Mahalia Jackson, I've already mentioned her, but Nina Simone. She's another one. And I have piano keys and the pictures of some of the people who were murdered during the civil rights movement on the keys where because that fueled her passion for justice. And then Alicia Keys. Speaking of Alicia Keys, I featured her. I'd love for her to see this piece that I've done on her. And I have a symbol of her song, Perfect Way to Die, that she wrote after Michael Brown was murdered. And then, of course, Hell's Kitchen, her play, and other iconic things that she has done are embedded in this piece. And then I have Aretha Franklin because she gave lots of money to the civil rights movement as well. Her father, C.L. Franklin, he staged the first march that was in Detroit that preceded the March on Washington. So it's all of these educational pieces that are profound that I find putting into this particular series. And I'm hoping that I can expand this series to about 20, like Josephine Baker, I want to be a part of it, and Abby Lincoln. And if anybody in your audience or you guys can think of anybody that you think fits my creative criteria for this, please let me know, because I'm eager to get this series moving along. And then I have several exhibitions, one right now in Morristown, New Jersey. It's called From Many Comes One, and 20 of my pieces are being featured there in Art in the Atrium. And then another art show that is in collaboration with a high couture fashion designer, Miguel Wilson, is at Phipps Plaza in Atlanta. And Phipps Plaza is the most exclusive plaza in Atlanta. So I'm very proud about that. So other things are being in the works, including talk about a documentary that some people want to do on me and my life. And stay tuned for that. But there's a lot going on, and I just cannot stop painting. It's just in me, and I'm like a passionate woman just moving forward and creating.
Yeah. Stephen, I like to add to that is when I came back from Savannah, Georgia, I went, my mother sent me to live with her brother from the age of 7 to 12. I came back, I came back to finish sixth grade in Harlem. When I would come home, I would see Malcolm X on the corner of 16th Street, Lenox Avenue, every day, preaching on the soapbox to the people in the street. And I didn't really know who he was at the time, but I just remembered that he was such a dynamic speaker. I would stop and just listen for about 15 minutes because I had to be home at a certain time. And that was on 115th Street in 70, the building that we spoke about earlier. It seems that I was always around activists because when I went to Carnegie Mellon University, we had a symposium and I had to go and pick up Betty Shabazz, me and our three Black Panther Party brothers. And Betty dogged Mr. Farrakhan all the way back, saying that he was responsible for Malcolm's death and blah, 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 which I put to Mr. Farrakhan. I didn't believe it. But in 1980, I asked him if he can explain it to, but that's another story. Anyway, so I got involved while acting into this type of activism. Never called myself that until I read me being called that in the press at some point. But then during the pandemic, I always wanted to have a bus done for Woody, my mentor. He was like family to me. And I wanted to have it while he was living so that he could see it. And so I got in touch with this sculptor, Stan Watts, and he began to work on it. But then George Floyd was murdered. Everybody watched it. And I called him and said, halt with Woody. You got to do one on George Floyd. And he did a full statue as even that's sitting in front of City Hall in Newark, New Jersey right now. This is the seventh year and it's beautiful. Gasby, have you seen it?
I have not seen it, but I'm going to make it a point
Okay,
to
it is
see it.
huge.
I'm going to take a look at that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I got to know George Floyd's family, and how I met Stephen is through Woody King. Woody called me, he said, Leon, Stephen Davis, blah, 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 blah. He's managing George Floyd's uncle, Selwyn, what's his last name?
Jones.
And so that's how Stephen and I got to meet at the statue, right, with the mayor. And it was beautiful. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to do one of Reverend Sharpton. And Gwen Carr, Eric Garner's mother, gave a black tie fair. I went, Mayor Eric Adams, DA Alvin Bragg, and Reverend Sharpton, a bunch of mothers who, Trayvon Martin's mother, Sean Bell's mother, and a bunch of other mothers who lost their child. And so I presented Reverend Sharpton with a 10-inch statue of himself, bronze. And Watts sculpted the George Floyd statues in the audience. We presented it. And I told him that within a year, we're going to have the big one finished. And when I sat down, Mayor Adams said, and when you finish it, we're going to unveil it at City Hall Park. That never happened. But the huge one is done, except that it's not bronze. And the people who were going to pay for it at the time, $250,000 in Utah, decided that they didn't want to support Reverend Sharpton by finishing this bronze statue of him. It's beautiful. He's seen it. It's done in clay. During that same period, I wanted to do one of Reverend Jesse Jackson while he was still living. I wanted him to write the bio on Reverend Sharpton's. Reverend Sharpton saw Reverend Jesse Jackson as his mentor. And I spoke to Jesse Jr. about it, but it never happened, I guess because of the artist. Yeah, so I guess he wasn't in the position to do it at that time, but now he's gone. So because I wanted one of Jesse done while he was living. I campaigned for Jesse back in 1984 when he first ran for president. And we continued with Woody's bust, and now it's in Detroit at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. And we were there during the unveiling, and it was beautiful. So, what I want to do, besides what I already said, moving into the future, is finish the Reverend statue, bronzing of it, because he deserves it for his great work that he's doing, whether he wants it or not. And he loves it the way it looks, but he's not asking for it, but he deserves it. So, I want to get it done. But I also wanted to get the one of Reverend Jesse Jackson done as well because he deserved it. It's unfortunate that he's not going to get a chance to see it. So those are the things that I want to do. I want, while people are trying to erase us, I'm trying to preserve us.
Absolutely.
That's what I feel is in me, God given to do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
on your God journey, which is what it is, and we both are, all three of us are on a God journey. I just really give you so much credit for doing that. I remember I was in Brussels, in Belgium and Netherlands earlier this year, and other people are recognizing the need to do these kinds of things. So, for example, there's a big mural of George Floyd on the side of a building as you're going down the main street towards the Basilica in Brussels of George Floyd, full blown on a wall
beautiful,
on the side of a building.
in
And
Brussels.
yeah, in Brussels. So because we cannot allow the erasure of our important history, it's so ungodly to do.
Yeah. And the purpose that I had the George Floyd statue done wasn't for Black people, it was for white people. The reason why it was for white people in my mind is because I knew that organizations like the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, neo-Nazi groups, the Oath Keepers, and they're going to try to recruit the same people that protested during such a horrific pandemic. And I wanted these people, while their hearts were still soft, to come visit statues. I meant to have 20 built and have them around the United States, but so far there's just one in Newark, New Jersey, because I wanted them to remember why they marched, because it was a human being. And it wasn't to honor George Floyd, it was to honor his life. Because in what's that scripture? And the Lord God blew the breath of life into the nostrils of man, and then he became a living soul. What is the breath? That was a great metaphor, the way the writer wrote that. But
Yeah.
the breath
Yeah.
is the Almighty Himself living in each one of us. And
Yes.
so when you kill somebody's body, you evict God from that body. So when you stepped on his neck, you stepped on a sacred space.
Yes.
Stepping on the neck, the home, the house of God, the temple of God. And so you evict God when you evict the life.
And to your point about wanting
Yeah.
who the audience is for this, for example, one of my pieces doing for Backstage Barriers and Beyond is Ella Fitzgerald. And her song, her hit with the bullet was a tisket, a tasket. He stole my yellow basket. In my creative mind, I'm saying, okay, what's in the basket? So in one of the yellow baskets on this art piece is the colored and white sign, the green book, and other things. But then in the other yellow basket that's on this piece, there's Marilyn Monroe and Ella together in a photo and a Jim Crow iconic sign. Now, why Marilyn Monroe? Because Marilyn Monroe told two nightclub owners, one, if you don't have Ella come here and sing, I will not come back again.
Wow.
So the other one, if you have Ella come here to sing, I'll be here every night. So it is the need for allies, which we do need. Liam,
Yes,
we
we
need
do. Very
allies.
much so.
And so that's what I was communicating through this piece of art, the possibility and the necessity of allies for justice.
Yes, yes, yes.
I do thank you all so much. I actually want to do one thing that just came in my mind. Is Doris very far from you?
Very far.
Oh, she left already.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to have her come on and say
Yeah.
hello to the audience.
Yeah, she's all the way upstairs. I'm in a totally different part of the house.
Oh, okay. That's what happens when you're rich. You can have a house
Yeah.
that's so big.
He's got it like that.
Oh, but this has been a wonderful exercise in memory, in thought process, and planning. And I do thank you all so much for being on the broadcast. It's just been a wonderful
Thank you.
time. And I
Thank you
just
so much.
decided to let you all talk at the end because you all had a lot to say.
Yes.
It was, Stephen,
It
it was
still got
fun.
more, but we'll hold it. We'll save it.
That's right. That's right. The show is only so long.
That's right.
That's the best thing about these podcasts, YouTube, is that unlike broadcast television where you had a certain amount of time that you got to get it in and
Yeah.
make sure you get the commercials in, you can make this as long as you want, as long as people listen to you.
Yes.
That part. That part.
But I wanted to thank you all again, and let me just say to my audience, that's it for the show about stuff. We'll be back next season. Bye.
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 Thank you for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed this show about stuff. See you next time.